back. Oh, wait, I forgot the part. I put upkeep, and I didn't even read the rest of what I was supposed to put here.
Should we one more start?
Okay, we're doing this again, guys.
Okay, so here's the thing you guys don't know is that James is an excellent editor, and on the podcast, if you listen before this, we're not heavily edited, but occasionally edited for times such as these.
Sometimes I say words like cuff.
That's
and they really
true.
aren't cuff.
Right.
Because James is a wizard with
And that actually is a little more hearable, that cool, groovy
I think
music.
I had it down too low in the first place.
Yep, me too.
I think.
All right,
I
so
think-
let's start.
We're starting
real
again.
quick.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
guys.
true.
We ready?
Yep, I think so.
3. Oh, that's what messed us up. I didn't do the 3, 2, 1.
That's true.
Just throw us off our 3, 2, 1.
Untap.
Welcome back to MTGYou, the Magic the Gathering podcast for you. I'm James.
Magma spray? I didn't even know magmas were religious. I'm Damon.
Change my attempt. Good intentions. I'm rich.
It's Thursday, the 29th of May, 2014, and we're coming to you live from Studio U. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 35.
Upkeep.
All right, so as you noticed, Blades is missing.
No, he's not. I see him on screen.
Yes, if you go check the Twitch, and if you see us on YouTube and things like that, you'll notice that Blades is present. He's there in spirit, and you can just see him there. He's sitting right here by me. See? And we might turn the time over to him periodically throughout this episode. We do, although I don't know, his voice is really low, so you might not hear him. So, anyway, did you hear that? I was trying to come up with, now that we're not going live from Heebie-Jeebies anymore, I was trying to figure out what to say. So I'm going to call this Studio U.
I like it.
Because it's you.
Right.
It's Utah.
It's all of the things.
It's everything. So this is Studio U. All right?
Cool. Any other interesting news for the week?
I was going to say just a friendly reminder, with it being summer now, I know at least in Utah we're going to be probably hitting 100 degrees here soon, and those of you living in like Arizona, New Mexico and stuff like that.
Texas, we had a lot of folks in Texas, I think, that listen.
Texas, yeah. Don't leave your cards in your car.
Especially them foils.
Yeah, because they will melt and they will dry up and they just get all sorts of ruined. I almost ruined mine today on accident because of it. So just be wary of that. Don't let them sit too long on the car.
That's a really good public service announcement you had there. That is really good advice.
Actually, my nickname at the Draper store is PSA, but it's not public. It's professional, smart.
Alec.
Yes.
I knew that. Anyway, so also last week we forgot to talk about the new block.
You know, I re-listened to the podcast just recently, and we mentioned we referenced it
barely.
Right, but we'd like to kind of give it its proper due. You know, having our guest on Kevin last week was really neat, and being on Twitch for really sort of the first time, kind of second time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of it was very new, and we got confused. But yeah, the Cons of Tarkir. Home world to Sarkon Vol.
That's
apparently there's a thingy that we want back and a thing we've never had that we've always wanted.
It says Morrow.
And
Mark Rosewater.
Mark Rosewater. We know that Sarkon Vol is like a dragon-themed planeswalker. It's kind of Huns, like, you know.
Mongolian-themed.
Right.
The thing is, like, on his plane, all of the dragons have gone extinct. And so that's why he was traveling around.
When a boot looking for dragons.
When have we seen this plane before?
Never. This is a brand new plane.
Okay.
Like,
so Sarkon Vol has been traveling around.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been in Alara.
So we know that part. Okay.
And
right. It's kind of like when my cousin visited from Pennsylvania. Like, I've never been to Pennsylvania, but I know that it exists because I have been to Pennsylvania, Maine, but I don't have any cousins up there. Anyways, yeah.
Tangent. Holy. Okay. Anyway, planes dead. No dragons. And that's why he's going to, like, Alara to try to find dragons, and he goes to Zendikar to try to find dragons, and now we're going back. So I can imagine a reprint maybe of Sarkon Vol, and it's going to be really cool to see kind of what they do with this. It's pretty exciting.
I would be really excited if they created a legendary creature that was something where her name sounded maybe like Khaleesi, comma, Mother of Dragons. That would be,
It is non-Khaleesi.
yeah,
It
that
is
would be
non-
super cool.
So,
Just call her Danny.
do you know what? That thing's still on, isn't it?
Yeah. Nobody
yeah,
turned
it
it
sure
off.
is. Rich is gonna sneak.
Last week
Over.
we actually.
Oh,
I-
never mind. There's
I-
a
I-
remote control.
I got the remote,
Technology.
but that killed our power last week, and so we got to remember these things. It's feeling okay in here right now. But remember, a couple months ago we had this a picture from Steve Argyle.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That
And
we thought.
and we thought, oh, Kamigawa,
Yeah.
because
Right.
it looks like a samurai sword, and it's this Asian lady, and we thought totally Kamigawa. Well, this actually could fit into this set really.
Absolutely.
So that might be that that could explain that picture too.
For sure.
Okay, and what else? What else? Is that? Did we cover everything we wanted to say on that?
On the little note, you also mentioned something about Moto.
You know, I saw this. It's not going to be long before version 3. That's currently the beta release is version 4.
Oh, so they're
Moto.
going to stop version 3 altogether?
It's sooner than later. I think it's like July-ish.
Oh, wow. Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of people who especially stream feel like the only way to stream is on version 3.
And I
so.
think so this is just something to be ready for. There was a link.
So do you get to keep your collections throughout?
Oh, yeah, for
34?
sure.
Or is it just like a patch?
Yeah, no, it's like the UI.
it's a brand new
User interface. Okay.
it's a brand new
Gotcha.
client, but it's supposed to be better. I've been enjoying it,
Oh,
but
that's what the
not
beta is.
everybody-
That makes sense.
but not everybody is on board with it. So
Yeah, a lot of people think it looks like a box of crap. So
Have they played Moto? I mean,
I think I was a little far away from my microphone.
you might have been, yeah.
Yeah. So
moving right along.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's
Any other business you can think of this week?
I'm just really freaking excited for conspiracy. I keep
Next
talking about it. I
week.
know I keep talking about it,
Next
everybody,
week.
but I'm so freaking excited. Anyways.
And the cool thing is, it's not limited like Modern Masters.
Right. They
so
said
it's
they're
actually
going to
be
print
a
as much as we
pretty-
want.
Which is kind of sad.
No.
Some kind type of.
Okay, if
'cause
I
some of the
want to have like
preprints are gonna be
commanders that are like $30,
cheaper.
$50 commanders, and if I was into that, but I just want to draft the crap out of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. But that's a great segue into.
What?
The draw step.
You know, you make it so hard to
riding on
not
a
talk
Segway.
over it. You know that, right?
Draw step.
Here we go.
Yes, I know that. And at the first of the draw step, we always have a click you. And if you guys look at the document, you'll notice there's not one there. And you're probably panicking right now. But I have already just thought about this.
We had decided last week what it was going to be.
Yeah,
Right?
I think so. Do you remember?
Wasn't it Judge Cast?
Yes,
Yes,
is.
it sure
Thank
was.
you.
Okay.
So we're gonna, JudgeCast is a really good podcast for people that are interested in judging and judge-related questions. Like if you're interested in the rules of the game, or if you just want to know how judges think, that's a great resource. And they come out every 2 weeks. Just a great podcast. You've been listening to it.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I have aspirations to maybe one day become a judge. And also, our good friend Judge Jeremy has been on now twice. He's been a guest, and they gave us a shout out, like I said last week. But yeah, overall, I really like things that are kind of day in the life of. I enjoy listening to Mark Rosewater's podcast because he designs Magic, and I don't know what that's like, and I don't really know what it's like to be a judge. So it's given me a better idea of what that could be like if I got more into the judging community. So
Agreed. So that's our click you for today, and then we're going to go into the draw step, which is what we're in right now. However,
Oh yeah.
I forgot to record them.
Yeah, we've been so busy.
Last couple of weeks,
I've been working on the tech on making sure I have the graphics for the Twitch stream and everything that I didn't record them. So we're just going to have to move along. Our first card today is
Relic of Progenitus is the one that I picked. It's an artifact for 1 mana. It says tap, target player exiles a card from his or her graveyard, or the next ability is pay 1, exile Relic of Progenitus, exile all cards from all graveyards, and draw a card. So this card is just value sandwich. You can slowly peck away at somebody's graveyard if you think they're going to be utilizing it. And then if something really bad's about to happen, you can just keep 1 mana up and get rid of it, and then it also cycles. So if you really need to dig for a card, you can use it as a cantrip as well. anyways, it just sees a lot of play in pretty much, it seems like, all sideboards in all modern decks, except for those that are strictly trying to abuse the graveyard themselves. So, anyways, I'm a really big fan of Relic of Progenitus, and it's a pretty sweet card.
It's kind of a Goyf killer, right? I mean,
Right.
Because Goyf registers, sorry, not registers, it uses the cards in graveyards to get its power and toughness. So with this, like, you can like block a Goyf or whatever, and then play this and exile all the graveyards, and the damage is still on the Goyf, and it kills off the Goyf. And on top of that, too, like you were just saying, like picking out stuff. Let's say, for instance, like, your opponent's playing Goyf, but you're playing Snapcaster Mage. You can also, like, slowly ping at their graveyard, and then when they do land a Goyf, and let's say you're the only one that has a creature in the graveyard, and you want to make it smaller, you can tap and exile the creature just out of your graveyard, because the player that's targeted with this gets to choose what card they exile.
Right.
So you can actually pick away some of the more relevant things out of your grave that they would use against you, which is pretty cool, too. So
Yeah.
it's
It's a very flexible card, and being, colorless, 1 mana, the cost for putting it in your deck, just
literally a silver bullet, right?
yeah, it's great.
Okay, my card is. It's supposed to do that. Flamekin Harbinger. And Flamekin Harbinger says you pay 1 red. It's a 1/1 creature, elemental shaman or shaman.
Shaman?
Shaman. When Flamekin Harbinger enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an elemental card, reveal it, and then shuffle your library and put that card on top of it. So this is actually really good in like a shaman deck. If you just have a deck that's full, helps you. First of all, it's a 1/1 for 1, and then a lot of the shamans have abilities that pump other shamans or do other things, and so it helps with that. Plus,
It's red.
It's red.
Do we
It's
need
red
to
and
have-
it's value. It's red actually doesn't get a whole lot of library manipulation or search that often. So to have that ability in a red deck seems really valuable.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's freaking Lorwyn block, man. It's got the cutest
Yeah.
artwork ever. It's adorable.
And there's a few. I was looking. This was specifically from a modern deck I was looking at that was a shaman based
that's awesome.
deck, and it looked really cool because you could. And this would just help you get to the right to whatever
The right shaman at the right time.
At the right time. It just guarantee that you get where you
What
need.
colors was it?
I don't know. I don't remember it right now, but it had different. It was.
Huh.
I don't know. I have to go back.
I've
and look at
actually
it.
seen a couple different shaman brews for modern.
Like I've
They're like
looked at
solid tier
Leaf
2.
Crown Elder because I'm
Uh-huh.
a tree folk player by heart, and Leaf Crown Elder is a shaman that allows you to cast stuff off the top of it, shares a creature type with it.
Oh, gotcha.
So like with this guy, you can go find another shaman and it casts it because Leaf Crown Elder is a tree folk shaman. So
Right.
but yeah, this is a really cool card.
All right, and so Rich, you're next.
Mine is Wheel of Sun and Moon. It's a 2-mana costing enchantment, hybrid green or white. Enchantment aura, enchant player. If a card would be put into an enchanted player's graveyard from anywhere, instead that card is revealed and put on the bottom of that player's library. So I'm kind of a troll. And I think it'd be a lot of fun. Being, threw me off. Sorry. No, I was just like, I'm just trying to be honest, kind of. This is just a really good. I think it's a really cool enchantment because you can enchant, like, if you're playing Scapeshift, for instance, you can enchant yourself, and when you sacrifice your lands, they'll go on the bottom of your library, so you can tutor them back up and put them on the battlefield and get the lands back that you just sacrificed. And also, if you're playing against.
Living End?
Hold on, we're gonna.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Living End. Okay, so if you're playing against Living End, you can enchant your opponent. So every time they cycle one of their creatures, it just goes on the bottom of their library rather than putting it in their bin. So when they Living End, they have no creatures in their graveyard. It's also good against Pod, because when Pod tries to pod things out to persist and stuff like that and get the infinite combo off of the Malira combo, it just goes on the bottom. And I just think about it, it'd be kind of cutesy to play against like a Jund or American Control even, because like they crack their fetches, right, to try to like, well,
Thin the deck.
thin the deck a little bit and get the right mana. Like, what if it just puts the fetch lands on the bottom, and then they're going to shuffle up their library with another fetch later, so they're just going to be drawing fetches without even having any lands to go fetch with those fetches. So it just ruins their statistics a little bit. And also, it's really good against like the Snapcasters though, because they go back in and whatever, and they can't Snapcaster things back. But that also means that they're getting the cards back in their library, but they have to draw them. So it's just one of those cutesy, funsy kind of cards. I thought was funny. And also goes an infinite combo in EDH, which I don't know why you would do this in EDH with Verdant Succession. Verdant Succession says it's an enchantment, costs 5, 4 colorless and a green. It says whenever a creature you control dies and goes to your graveyard or just dies or whatever, search your library for a card with the same name as that and put it on the battlefield. So like it gets infinite like sack outlet loop because you're like
If you play that in Naya with Perforos,
or whatever, like any amount of things, you sacrifice a guy, it goes on the bottom of your library, you go find it, put it back into play. Like
right, and the Perforos goes ping, 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 ping,
ping
dead.
everybody or whatever. Yeah, like it's cutesy, troll kind of fun card. I saw the other day and it made me happy. So
That's kind of funny.
And Blades, what card are you drawing? Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Just a little shout out again there to Blades. Okay. So is that all for our draw step, guys?
I think so. I think we want to move right along because we have a jam-packed episode today.
We do. This is going to be, in fact, let's just moving right along.
Main phase.
All right, so we're in the main phase, and today we're going to be talking about Modern. And this is actually the first of a two-part series where we're trying to break down the Modern metagame a little bit, talking about archetypes, and we've put a lot of planning into this one. We have some decks to look at, and let's just move along here. Let me find the right. I need to find the right
Starting place.
You notice there. I just want to. Anyone that's watching the stream or on YouTube, you'll also notice that we also added the chat to the window.
Right. So when you watch on YouTube later, you can see
you'll
what
be
we're all
able to see
talking
the
about.
chat. There's a few things I've been working on this week. Deck list. That's what I was trying to
honestly,
find there.
for those of you guys who are podcast only, we're going to be talking about a lot of individual cards today. And what's really neat is we're going to be able to actually pull them up one at a time. And so if you have any specific questions about any one of these Modern decks, feel free even just to fast forward in the episode to where we talk about it, and you'll be able to actually see the cards pop up as we talk about them, which is something that we've been pretty excited about, and James put a ton of work into, and we're excited to be able to do.
So what we have here is we have Modern Archetypes. This is, and I'm showing on the screen right now, Part 1. We have 9 decks that we're going to look at today, and in Part 2 we have some others that we're going to look at. This list may change by next week. In fact, I think we already know that there's one that's going to change.
We're adding one more.
And we realize that there are hundreds of different types of archetypes and decks out there. These are just some of the main archetypes that you typically will see in deck lists that pop up from Grand Prix and Pro Tours and possibly Moto, on top of some of the ones that a lot of people at FNM seem like they play or try to, copy and play or whatever. So the main meta, if you will.
Okay, so let's move along. The first one we're going to talk about is Tribal Zoo. So you may be thinking, well, why don't you just start with Zoo? But hey, I'll let these guys. This is
refute that.
This is their thing here. So let's start with Tribal Zoo. Go ahead, guys.
So Tribal Zoo is a very cool deck. It is at heart an aggro deck. That acts a little bit like a combo deck, but the thing that it's comboing with is the lands. So while you're playing all the very, very best spells in Modern that are 3 mana and less, I mean, we have such all-stars as Geist of St. Traft, Tarmogoyf, Lingering Souls, Snapcaster Mage. I mean, we just have all kinds of spells that we can use. We are also trying to make a 5-color mana base so that when we use the card Tribal Flames, if we could pull that one up, that it will be able to hit for 5 damage, because Domain asks that you have one of each kind of basic land on the battlefield, and for each one of those it'll deal an additional damage, right?
Basic land type, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the idea is, like, for 2 mana you can deal up to 5 points of damage. And with the Snapcaster Mages,
that's 10 damage.
You can, like, Snapcaster and flash it back, which is pretty good.
So the deck, the idea basically is you deal the first 10 points of damage naturally with your things like Geist of St. Traft or Tarmogoyf, Wild Nicodle, any one of these, and then you finish them off with a big Tribal Flames, and it's really quite good. So again, a lot of the very best creatures and cards in Standard.
Right, and because this deck is pretty heavy in a lot of different types of cards, it uses lots of fetch lands, it uses a lot of different instant sorceries to be able to do its work. Tarmogoyf actually gets pretty big in this deck pretty quickly. Tarmogoyf is one of the big names in Modern because it's, for 2 mana you can have up to like an 8/9, I think is the biggest it goes. And it's just pretty house in this type of build. And then also they run like Wild Nicodle. He's a 1 green that he gets +1/+1 if you have a mountain, and +1/+1 if you have a plains. He's a 1/1 for 1 green. He just recently got unbanned, just 3 months ago.
Yep.
So like he is basically like what the deck is built around is him, because he's kind of an all-star, if you will. And then the thing is, because they are running 5 colors, they're able to splash a lot of interesting things that you don't see in the regular zoo list, such like Geist of St. Traft. Geist of St. Traft costs 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue. For a 2/2 legendary hexproof guy, that when he attacks, you get to put a 4/4 angel into play attacking with him, and it gets exiled at the end of combat. The cool thing is, so he's for 3 mana, he's a 2/2 hexproof, which is kind of okay, right? But being able to just swing for 6 damage on turn 4, or even turn 2 if you're hitting a Noble Hierarch or a Bird's turn 1, is pretty effective. And it's just adding the 1 blue, it's not that bad of a splash. And then the other thing is, too, they utilize a lot of the fetch lands, like the Aran Mesa, not Verdant Catacombs, the Misty Rainforest, stuff like that, to go find these lands so that they can hit their different domain. They usually run a lot of like 1/ofs, like Hollow Fountains, Blood Crypts, stuff like that, just so they can get their domain, but still stay within the colors of what the deck is trying to play. Because realistically, it's a green, white, red, a little bit more blue, and then like kind of not a lot of black. Some lists will run like Lingering Souls and stuff like that, or Thoughtseize type effects, but usually it just is more like a Bant/red type build, like blue, white, red, green.
And the 12 fetch mana base really is what allows that to just do whatever it wants to with its mana.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a really fast, mean, angry aggro deck. It's pretty expensive to build, even, but
Infinite dollars.
So when I hear Tribal Zoo, I'm thinking, okay, tribal, like, I didn't think it was a card, the Tribal Flames card that was making it tribal. I thought it was like based because of
the tribal stuff from Lorwyn, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. But no, it's the tribal. This is what's making this into a different deck than just a traditional zoo.
Correct.
And I've also heard this deck just referred to as Tribal Flames before.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, and I think that the difference, what makes it zoo, is you're playing like the Wild Nacatls and stuff like
Goyf,
that. Like
Great
Goyf.
Ape.
I think it's now Tribal Zoo because of Wild Nacatl getting unbanned.
Yeah.
Before it was Tribal
Oh, it was
Flames.
just Tribal Flames. Yeah, you're correct.
And that's the weird thing about Modern, is they change names based on what cards and stuff. And it's one of those things that once you kind of start following a lot, it starts making sense. But getting right into it is kind of hard, which is why we're here helping you out with it. So it's really, really good against a lot of different things, in the fact that it's really fast and angry and mean. But it kind of dies a little bit to like combo decks, such like Blue-Red Storm. It's kind of got an okay matchup against Control, because the Tribal Flames allows you to just
push damage,
steal the game really quickly, right? Because you just go bolt, like Tribal Flames, Snapcaster, Tribal Flames ends the game really fast. I know that sometimes Jund it's a very, very kind of like 6s, it seems like, with Jund, because Jund has a lot of spot removal, and really the difference is that Tribal Flames is just such a powerful card for 2 mana that it swings it.
And with how much so many decks hurt themselves with their own mana base, crack, fetch, Thoughtseize, you're at 15.
Just to interrupt here, pop culture's wondering about the price of this, and and people say this is like 4 digits for something like
easily. Yeah, actually,
it's
it's not uncommon for a Modern deck to get over $1,000.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? I mean, do places do proxy?
I always suggest proxying, because I think Modern's fun enough to just proxy and play with among your friends.
That's what I kind of thinking here. I mean,
if you're gonna go to a tournament, that's the thing. Like budgeting.
Yeah.
If like I built Pod when it was like maybe $200 to build, and now it's at least maybe like $1,000.
Modern has grown a ton in just a very short time.
Right.
And so the prices on everything have really skyrocketed. I'm hoping that they do, another printing of something like Modern Masters soon,
And
with a much broader, print run.
Well, and the other thing is too, it depends on the season. Right now we're getting out of Modern season a little bit.
Into Modern
Oh,
PTQ season.
Yeah, PTQ season.
Yeah.
Right. And so usually the best time to start picking up Modern stuff is in the fall, closer to like December timeframe, because that's when Modern is not seeing play in the PTQ season,
or at the Pro Tour, right?
Pro
Tour.
Tour.
So nobody's really that excited about it.
As much as we all kind of seem like I know a lot of people budget for this game, and a lot of people like this is a hobby and stuff like that. There's actually a lot of people who they just have expendable income like crazy, and what they do is based on the season they'll just buy a deck. And then when they're done with that deck, they sell the deck. And then next season they buy a deck and they sell that deck. And they just do this cyclical process. And that's usually what happens a lot is, a lot of people start getting out of cards that are, they're not going to be playing with anymore after Modern season. And so that's when the Modern prices start dropping or Legacy prices or whatever.
Do stores have any, sometimes stores will have like a proxy limit, like saying, okay, that they'll play.
They can't do it sanctioned.
Yeah.
I know that we've done unsanctioned, like casual tournaments at our store.
Mm-hmm.
And how we do it is like you throw in money into like a not a pot because that's gambling, but you pay a price or whatever to enter in the tournament. And you play, and then you get in-store credit divided among the top
To try
half
to
of the
buy
room,
into your Modern.
and then you can use that in-store credit to buy in your Modern sometimes.
And we
stuff
set, I
that.
think, like $150.
Yeah, at the time it was enough to buy 1 Goif or 3 fetches. So now I think we'd
probably,
bump
if we were
it
to
up
do it again, it'd be
200.
like 200. Yeah.
So and that's a great way of getting into Modern. And another thing, again, like proxy. I mean, it's a fun enough format that proxying is viable.
I agree. Anyway, I sort of derailed you right there.
That's
going
perfect.
Keep going where you were.
The next deck we're going to talk about is
Traditional Zoo.
Traditional Zoo.
Shout out Brian Kibler.
Yes, right. Except for now they're playing Big Zoo, which is kind of not much different. It's way different, but it's
The big difference between Tribal Zoo and Traditional Zoo is that we're not using Tribal Flames. So we have a much more focused Naya mana base. And you're also going to see a lot higher number of explosive 1-drops.
Correct.
You're going to see things like a Goblin Guide is a huge one. 2 for 1 mana that has haste. I mean, that is the most aggressive, fastest creature that they've really ever printed. And then they just back it up with removal to continue to push their guys through. This deck is very, very aggressive and just pushes through and tries to, like I said, win with guys.
Yeah. This doesn't blow out nearly as quickly as like Tribal Flames does because it doesn't just have the 5 or 10 damage out of the
You're forced to play a little more of a fair game, right?
Right. This is a little bit more fair. But the thing is, your mana is more consistent, and you don't pay as much life using your fetch lands or your shock lands. So the idea is you get a little bit more consistency for less kill, and that's kind of a typical thing in Modern is the trade-offs. Again, they run like things like Wild Nacatl. You know what I mean? And then they also run, which is the 1 green, blah, 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 +1/+1 for mountain, +1/+1 for plains.
That is an insane card. It really is. Because basically you can get a 3/3 for 1.
Right. Like turn 2, he's usually a he's a 3/3. Turn 1, he's usually just a 2/2.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
And then also Curdape. He's a 1 red for a 1/1, but he gets +1/+2 with a forest.
So he's almost like a Wild Nacatl in some ways.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Loam Lion is a white creature that basically is the same as Curdape.
Yeah, he gets, but he's 1 white for a 1/1, gets +1/+1 or +2 for having a forest, and then of course Goif, because why not? We're playing.
Why not?
We're playing the good magics, and then this is actually kind of a little bit more of a recent thing that they've been throwing in, and I agree with it. I think it's amazing. As Gaddock Teague, Gaddock Teague costs 1 green, 1 white. He's a 2/2 legendary Kithkin guy that says non-creature spells with cover mana costs 4 or greater cannot be cast, and non-creature spells with X in their mana costs can't be cast. So Cryptic Command, no, not today. Like
Supreme Verdict,
not today. Like Wrath of God, not today. Batterskull, also Sphinx's Revelation. It shuts down a lot of the big things that Control typically likes to do to steal the game
and everything
away.
you're doing, you're creating these big guys for nothing.
Right.
So
he's kind of like your canopy, protecting your guys basically once you stick him. He enables you to get through those last 2 turns that you need to push the damage through without them casting a big sweeping effect or something to tap down your guys and protect themselves. He's amazing. He's actually kind of gone up in price quite a bit in the last couple days too. But
he's
not
also
not days, but like in the last couple months.
Right. He's also not a terrible EDH general too.
He's awesome.
To completely derail the conversation.
I think he's way sweet.
So it also uses cool cards like Lightning Bolt, like I said, and Lightning Helix to clear the way. And then its mana base, again, is very flexible. giving you the basic land types so that all your creatures can grow and be bigger.
Yeah, and the cool thing is Lightning Bolt, 1 red for 3 damage. We all should know what that does. Lightning Helix is 1 red and 1 white for deal 3 damage to target creature player, and then you gain 3 life, which is actually really cool because in this deck you're also again pinging yourself with your fetch lands and your shock lands to hit your mana consistently and successfully. The Lightning Helix allows you to recoup a lot of that life that you've spent to get your lands set up so that you're still within the game of being able to be aggressive but not having to worry about blocking so much, which is pretty cool. So,
Let's see.
and the next big one, the big bad wolf of Modern.
Are we done with this?
I think so. Unless there's some
did-
follow up questions that we wanted.
Did
to
we
have.
want to
Oh, yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
how its weaknesses?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping
Yeah,
ahead. You can
I think so. One big thing,
and
if
one
you're
thing-
looking at a sideboard against this deck,
Yeah, and we also didn't really talk about sideboard in the previous one or anything. I think I sort of
right. So for
derailed it.
for both of these decks,
Yeah.
to sideboard, one of the big cards that's popped up in Modern recently is Anger of the Gods.
that
Red pops up in Jund, red pops up in the blue-red control decks, red pops up in Naya. So a lot of decks that are common in Modern have access to red. And Anger of the Gods, deal 3 damage to all creatures. If they would die, they're exiled. And that card is just so powerful, and it's a sweeper for 3 mana. And it's amazing how different 3 mana is than 4 mana, which is where you hit your Day of Judgments and your Supreme Verdicts and things like that. So having some sort of a sweeper effect, Pyroclasm used to be the big deal, but Pyroclasm only deals 2 damage, and so it's not enough to hit, Nakatl, Loam-Lion, Curdape, all these creatures dodge 2 damage type effects. You really need that 3 damage.
Right, which is another reason why Tron isn't seeing as much plays. Pyroclasm is being a little underclassed right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Abrupt Decay just wrecks this deck. It hits almost everything against it, right?
Right.
So that's
yeah,
another thing
everything's
to be
cheap,
worried
so
about.
Abrupt Decay kills all of it.
Bolt takes care of most of your relevant threats.
So decks that traditionally have had a good matchup against this, if red, white, blue control gets its correct draw, it runs the full set of Lightning Helixes against this deck, so it can gain life lost. It runs a full set of Lightning Bolts. It will usually run 1 or 2 sweeping type effects, and so just like in Standard, these all-in aggro decks, if they don't kill you right away, they really can run out of steam. So being able to effectively 1-for-1 your opponent without giving away all of your life total is really the way to try to sideboard and beat Zoo.
Yeah. And this deck, Zoo also has a hard time usually against the combo decks again.
Right, because they don't have a lot of hand disruption or really board disruption, right? They're
Right.
just trying to focus on getting their guys
Yeah,
through.
like the Blue-Red Storm, they struggle. They can usually sometimes outrace Blue-Red Storm, but that's if they get a really, really good opening hand. Against Twin, a lot of the things that Twin plays are out of Bolt or Lightning Helix range. Now, they do usually run Paths, but it depends on the deck list as well. But that's one card for one card. It's still kind of a rough matchup for them. But yeah, this deck is typically really good at it plays fair into the trenches, so it makes unfair decks need to play fair, and it gets completely wrecked by Blood Moon. Because it shuts off
Yeah.
all of your Wild Nakatls, all of your Curdapes, stuff like that.
And for those of you who don't know, Blood Moon is a 3-mana enchantment that says to all of your lands, you are all mountains. Now, if you're non-basic.
Non-basics, yep.
So, all your cool, your Lightning Helixes, red and a white, sorry, you probably don't have access anymore. You wanted to cast Geist of St. Draft? Sorry, you probably can't do that anymore. And in fact, during the last Pro Tour, there was a deck we're not going to talk about called Blue Moon, but essentially it was a control deck that just it played 4 Blood Moons in the main deck, and the idea was it just would Lightning Bolt the first thing, remand or counter the second thing, and then Blood Moon on the third turn, and then try to just win from there eventually. Because so many decks in Modern, they have these complicated mana bases and try to take advantage of that, and if you can punish them, then they just can't cast their spells the rest of the game. So
Barry Water, the Wumpus is asking about how this this deck does against Affinity. In the Affinity matchup, this deck's a little bit more underpowered than Affinity, because Affinity doesn't hurt itself with its mana base, whereas Zoo does, because Zoo's fetching lands and shocking in things or whatever. And that's usually where the sideboard is really, really big. Because also Affinity usually spends out their hand within the first turn usually, or the second turn is usually when they're basically out of a hand usually, right? And Zoo will bring in a lot of like Ancient Grudges and stuff like that because that's within their color wheel. I've seen Shatterstorms and stuff like that. Usually the sideboard, the Zoo matchup gets a lot better because they have so many more options than, say, the Affinity player. But usually the Affinity player, if they have a pretty good start, will usually outrace
It will pick up game one,
pick
right?
up the game one against the Zoo player, unless the Zoo player has a grip of like bolts and lightning helixes,
Right.
in which case it can kind of keep them off a little bit while providing threats. But I mean, if the opponent's playing like Edge Champion, sometimes you just die because you're not gonna be able to swing through an Edge Champion,
Right.
or deal with the Edge Champion. So
So yeah, it seems like it's a little bit of a coin toss on the game one, but if you have a fair number,
weighted on the Affinity winning.
yeah. But if you have a fair number of Ancient Grudges in your sideboard, that card just 2-for-1's Affinity so hard, and it's really hard for them to come back because they just don't have card draw usually.
Yeah, right.
Well, unless you're playing Thoughtcast, but anyways.
Okay, so moving on to Jund.
All right, the big bad wolf of Modern, as it's been called before. So, for those of you who have not listened or paid a whole lot of attention to Jund, Jund has kind of been like the big, like, I guess, protagonist or antagonist. Sorry, he's been the antagonist in Modern for the last 5 years that Modern has been.
he's
a
the bad
thing.
guy?
He's kind of been the big bad guy.
Now, Rich, for those who don't know at home, what does Jund mean?
Jund is the plane in Alara that's green, red, and black.
Alrighty.
Jund is for the color, like Naya's green, white, red. Jund is green, red, black, and that's just what people will call that color spectrum. Typically, what it's been said that like if your deck can handle playing against Jund, it's probably okay to play in Modern because it used to be played so much. It's one of the most expensive decks in Modern. What it is they use a lot of discarding type effects, lots of like kill spells, lots of just really solid removal and hand disruption to keep you off your game while providing threats of their own, and they are very, very attrition.
Tarmogoyf has been in the last. It's been in every list so far.
That's why it's
and,
like
and how much is Tarmogoyf?
It's like 200.
200 right now.
So
on
that's
Star City.
that's the major because they run 4 of, and so then you're looking at $800 right there. The majority of these decks are Tarmogoyf.
Right.
Am I right?
Well, like Lily's like 60 right now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember when it wasn't that much. When she wasn't that much. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, before they printed Modern Masters, Tarmogoyf was about 100 to 120.
and
And
it's
then they
gone up.
printed Modern Masters, and now it's gone
Well,
up.
it's
which is
because
kinda
Modern has gotten more
much more popular.
Well, Cryptics were 30. Now they're 60.
Yeah, it's
or
crazy.
whatever.
So again, Liliana the Vel is just a good example
She's
of that
the
attrition.
poster child, right, of the Jund usually.
Yeah. So will rip cards out of your hand or cause you to sacrifice creatures, which is really difficult.
Yeah. And the thing is, so she costs 1 colorless, 2 black for a Planeswalker Liliana. She has 3 loyalty when she comes into play. She has a +1 ability of each player discards a card, -2 ability of target player sacrifices a creature, and a -6 of return.
Nope.
Oh, no, that's the.
You
sorry.
separate
separate all permanents
into 2
target
piles.
player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of his or her choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just house. I mean, the reason why Deathrat got banned is because it enabled Jund to turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, turn 2 Lily pretty consistently, and then Deathrite was also after that now able to just eat things out of the graveyard that they made you discard to take damage. So Jund is one of the big proponents of why Deathrite got banned. I hate you, Wizards. But no,
Rich, tell us how you really feel about Deathrite being
right,
banned.
let's not.
Yeah, can we go into
into
that? Spend the next 5 minutes? No.
I don't think we have time. But so again, like they use Tarmogoyf because not only are they thought seizing and Inquisition and Kozilekking you and making you pitch things with Lily, which is putting more things in the graveyard. Goyf has come into play turn 2 sometimes as a 3/4, even a 4/5, depending on what they'd made you discard fetches. I mean, now that Bitter Blossom is unbanned, now you can even get you can get pretty high really, really fast. They use a lot of effects like Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize before it got printed in Theros was like an $80 card. So I mean, we're complaining at it being at $20-25 when really we should be.
helped out a lot.
If you're looking into Modern, this card is amazing. Being able to rip out your opponent's threats and their combo pieces is sweet. It's great. They also run Inquisition of Kozilek, which is actually like a $10 uncommon right now. It costs 1 black, sorcery speed, target player reveals his or her hand, and you make them discard a non-land permanent with CMC, or non-land card with CMC 3 or less. So it rips out the Goyfs, rips out the Lilies, Electrolyzes, Paths, Snapcasters, whatever. It rips out like a lot of the relevant things without making you have to pay life to do so. So it's just another really, really good discard.
So the theoretical kind of like dream hand or progression for Jund is to go turn 1 Thoughtseize You, rip out your best thing, turn 2 land the Tarmogoyf, turn 3 land the Lily, and then just either protect Lily or keep bashing with Tarmogoyf.
Right. And
continue to just 1-for-1 you with its removal and hand disruption. And it's just it is a fair deck. It plays in the trenches, like Rich said, but it really just keeps marching forward.
Yeah. And it uses the cheap spells like Abrupt Decay, which we see all over in Standard right now in the green-black, like mono-black splash green lists and stuff like that, or in Junk. And just the power of this card. I mean, most of Modern is under 3 CMC, so Abrupt Decay is just great. Can't counter it, kill it, die. They use spells like this, Lightning Bolt, of course, because that's really almost, other than like the new Chandra, red is kind of lackluster in this deck, except for Bolt and the new Chandra. They don't really run a whole lot of other red spells, except for in the sideboard. Then that's when a lot of the red spells come into play. Also, Maelstrom Pulse. Great card. 1 colorless, 1 green, 1 black. Destroy target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as this. So D-Sphere, like we thought was kind of cool. No, Maelstrom Pulse is much better. Kill that thing dead and all of its copies for just 3 mana at sorcery speed. But the thing is, because this deck is very attrition-based, it wants to do a lot of 1-for-1s, a lot of different, like, just try to, like, grind it out so that you don't have a hand.
How does it run out of it? How does it not run out of a hand?
Right. They use Bob, Dark Confidant. This is the reason why Dark Confidant is so pricey right now, is because of how powerful he is in even just this deck alone. Dark Confidant costs 1 colorless, 1 black. He's a 2/1 human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand. You lose life equal to its CMC. Most of the time, you're going to be drawing lands, because a third of your deck is going to be lands. But even then, losing 1 life to get a Lightning Bolt that's going to be doing 3 damage does not seem that bad. Right. Drawing into a Liliana the Veil that could potentially make them sacrifice their 1 body that's keeping you from swinging does not seem that bad. Dark Confidant allows you to fill back up your hand so that you're ahead in the attrition matchup, right? Like,
yep.
And the new card that came out that everybody was saying was like a cheap man.
Painseer.
Painseer. Would it work in this situation or not?
Well, the thing is with Painseers, it has to be able to swing freely and untap in order to do the Bob type effect.
And that's the trouble with it, is that
right.
You don't know if you're going to be able to swing or not.
As much removal and stuff as this deck uses, and also, you know, the other thing too is you play Painseer on turn 2, then you swing on turn 3, and then maybe hopefully you draw a card on turn 4. Dark Confidant says play me on turn 2, draw a card on turn 3 if I exist on your board still. Yeah. So it asks much less of you. The setup cost is much lower.
He is a lightning bolt. I mean, like a lightning rod.
Right.
Quite frequently, they will not let him allow you to draw the card. He will soak up a lot of that removal that would be otherwise used on your Goyfs or other things, because they don't want you to draw cards. I mean, he's kind of bad in like the mono-red burn matchups because you're losing life to draw cards, but even then, sometimes that could be the difference between winning and losing. And then the other thing is too, usually a lot of these modern decks will have a contingency plan within their land base to try to, like, if you know,
the wheels fall off, bad things happen.
Bad things happen. They have a backup plan, and so they run usually this card, Raging Ravine. It's a land from Worldwake. It comes into play tap, but tap for a green or red, so it kind of fixes your mana base. But you can pay 4 mana to make it into a 3/3 creature, and then whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So not only is it good turning into a body for a turn, but it also grows itself. And when it turns back into just a land and not a body, the +1/+1 counters stay. This allows you, so after you've spent your hand dealing with their threats and their board state, to have a backup plan of attacking them with these big, huge lands, which is pretty sweet. This deck is good against almost everything. It seems like
Right. It doesn't automatically win any matchup, but it certainly has a puncher's chance against every single matchup.
Right. Because it's dealing a lot with your hand disruption and stuff like that. It allows you to kind of have almost perfect knowledge about the game of what your opponent's playing, which is pretty relevant if you're, they're playing some random deck you've never seen before. It does die to some of the more aggressive matchups. Like, I know it has a hard time against Zoo sometimes because Zoo just can get out of hand way too quickly before they can get their board state online to deal with the threats. I mean, because they do have, usually within the first 3 turns, they're setting up to try to stick their Liliana. And if you're able to kind of just aggro them out a little bit and overwhelm them, you can do really well.
And let's just be really honest. Liliana is just terribly embarrassing against something like Affinity, right?
Right.
Where they just barf 6
Yeah,
creatures onto the battlefield at once,
Mhm.
and you say, sacrifice one of your terrible 1/1s? Oh, wait, you're attacking me with a lot of 1/1s. It adds up to a lot of damage. And so, Black, at its heart, it says power at any cost. And in this deck's case, a lot of the cost that it's paying is its own life total. It's using it as a resource. And so for decks that can leverage putting through a lot of damage very quickly, it really makes that cost a little bit more dear than it would be against a lot of other decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Traditionally, Burn is a very, very bad matchup for Jund as well, though, Burn isn't great against many other decks. So
yeah. Burn kills Jund for sure.
Burn
but
is awesome.
Burn
Against
is awesome.
Every deck.
play it against.
You can put it together for $40. It's sweet.
It kills.
You just resolve 6 spells and you probably won.
Yeah.
yeah. Until you play. Yeah. So that's probably someone's bad matchups.
I didn't look at. So the sideboard, do we want to? And then
I feel like we have so much to go through. I would rather talk about some of the sideboard cards against Jund.
yeah, and I'm
against
showing
these
it on
lists.
the screen here if you
Yes.
want to take a look at it. I know
really,
podcast land. people.
Jund's sideboard is bring in more removal, bring in more discarding effects.
Or against blue decks, bring in Thrun the Last Troll.
Thrun the Last Troll, which is really about all.
And he just can't be countered, can't be the target of blue
And
spells.
regenerates. He's a 4/4 for 4.
He lives through everything, and you eventually die to him.
He is everything I am. For
Rich
Magic.
is it's really rich. The Last Troll.
Can't target me. Can't kill me.
Now moving right along, from Jund we have a Jundi, or Jund splashing white.
That's weird. What is a Jundi?
Now a Jundi is a deck that happened after about a year and a half ago they banned Bloodbraid Elf. Now Bloodbraid Elf was a 4-mana spell that had Cascade, and Cascade just says find something with less mana than it has, so something that was 4 or less, and just cast
3
it
or
for
less.
free. Sorry, 3 or less.
Except for that, it can't be a land. So non-land
Right.
card.
So, sometimes you play Bloodbraid Elf and you would just flop into a Liliana of the Veil. Or you would flip into a Thoughtseize. Or you'd flip into a free Lightning Bolt or Tarmogoyf.
Maelstrom
Pulse. Maelstrom Pulse. It was just so much value. And so they banned that card, and suddenly Jund was just searching for, what do I play in the 4-mana spot? People tried to run Huntmaster of the Veil. Huntmaster of the Veil. That's
Master,
terrible.
Yeah. Because at the same time that
Anyways.
he got
Huntmaster of the
that
Fells.
Bloodbraid Elf got banned was when we were like in the Innistrad Dark
Innistrad,
Ascension
yes.
time frame, and so we had Huntmaster of the Fells, and we're like, oh, we'll just
And
replace.
he has the exact
with
same
Huntmaster.
mana cost as the Bloodbraid Elf had. So people continue to look around, and they decided to eventually look at a Johnny, who is...
Well, then they reprinted Lingering Souls.
Yes, they
was
sure
the
did.
huge thing.
So a Johnny is 2 mana, 2 colorless, a red, and a white. He has 3 loyalty. His +1 ability says target permanent doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. And if you think about what Jund's basically trying to do, is it's using up all of your resources. One of the resources it can tie up is your actual land, so you can't cast the spells you want to cast. Then its -2 ability is Lightning Helix. Deal 3 damage to a target creature or player and gain 3 life. One of the problems we just talked about with Jund is that it's constantly leveraging its own life total to be able to try to deal damage. A Johnny helps you sort of get some of that back and not die quite as quickly. And if you let a Johnny continue to uptick forever, his ultimate is destroy all lands target player controls. Now,
Armageddon. Oh.
yeah. Now, Planeswalker ultimates are not something I talk about all that often. However, in Jund, because it is so attrition-based, if you were constantly dealing with just an empty board and an empty hand, he just builds up and builds up and can ultimate sometimes.
He also even taps down like the big creatures that would possibly
Right.
kill him, right?
Yeah,
So
he
you're
protects
able to,
himself amazingly well.
he actually, if you guys have paid attention to any of the big tournaments happening, Pro Tour, Born of the Gods, Sean McLaren actually ultimated an Johnny Vengeance against Jacob Wilson, 2 Canadian players, to take game 2, leading into game 3, which won him Pro Tour Born of the Gods. That was a really good matchup you should watch. But Johnny Vengeance it speaks power to what you can do in Modern. It's crazy. We were hoping that he was going to get printed soon.
Maybe in Theros where he showed up. Now, the other card we just mentioned was Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
Now, Lingering Souls, again, we're talking about just grinding out your opponent and outvaluing them. And there's really almost no spell quite as outvalue as Lingering Souls is.
Well, actually, that was one of the reasons why Bloodbraid Elf got banned was because they
You
actually
could
made
flop
the
into-
Ajundi.
yeah.
They made the Ajundi with the Maelstrom because you could flip into a Lingering Souls
And it's just so dirty.
and just get so much value and protection for your board, and then just flashing it back was cute at that point. Like, it was pretty powerful. And this just helps you out, kind of throw some guys on the board, help block and stuff, and then it eventually becomes a win con. They also, and because now they have access to white, they have access to one of the best removals in Modern, Path to Exile. 1 white, exile target creature as controller gets to search its library for a basic land and put a play tapped. And the thing is, Jund doesn't care if you're going to mana up a little bit because they're just going to kill whatever you play or make you discard whatever is in your hand that you could possibly play off of the land that you have. So, and basically they're running the other just regular Jund shell, just splashing white for these cutesy cards. And Damon, you have this weird thing you want to talk about that you're excited about.
Oh,
What
just
is
the
it?
Jund has spun off into lots of different variants. The most recent Pro Tour Born of the Gods that Reduke, who's one of my favorite players, played Jund, and he bled out the 3rd color, so he just played straight green-black. And his efficient creature was Phyrexian Obliterator. So for black, so for 4 black manas, you can make a 5/5 Trampler, and whenever he's dealt damage, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. And so, Lightning Bolt is one of the main removal spells, and blocking is one of the main ways you deal with not, having damage hit you. And anytime you block him, like, it just is so painful. When he was in Standard, I played him quite a bit in the Zombie Shell, and I kind of have an old love affair with this ugly, awful-looking, aliens monster.
He looks like a Skitsy.
He does.
From Dark
Skeksis.
Crystals.
Yeah,
I love the artwork.
Skeksis.
Gonna kill you, Gelfling.
But yeah, so really, again, both of these Jund variants just leverage hand disruption and efficient creatures to eventually grind you out of the game. And I don't know if we mentioned just a second ago, Lingering Souls, similar to the name suggests, makes 2 lingering 1/1 spirit flying tokens. I don't know if we actually said that. So in case you missed it.
Oh, we're going to
for-
cover it in black-white tokens.
It's true, and which is what we're headed to next. Is that correct?
I think so.
Now, James, is there anything that you feel like we missed talking about these 2 Jund decks?
Did we talk then about so you covered really what disrupts it? I mean,
Yeah, so the thing is about Jund is that it's actually really hard to disrupt. The cards that you would bring in against Jund,
Just solid removal usually. Efficient cards is usually the only way you can keep up in the Jund battle. I know that they were playing. Jund Park was playing against Andrew Huska, and Jund Park was playing Scapeshift. And the thing is, usually like Scapeshift is one of those decks. Like once you get 8 mana, 8 lands, and you cast a Scapeshift. It's on 7. 7 is the average, but that only deals 18 points of damage.
Oh, gotcha.
So
they
8 gets you over the top
themselves
that
at
you
all.
can do like
Gotcha.
32 or 36. But the idea is like if you sometimes in the playing against the combo deck, when you're playing a combo deck against Jund, sometimes you just top deck the one thing you need to win, and then that's just combo. But Jund usually has a good time of weeding out decks like that. So
Yeah, Jund traditionally is actually weak against decks that top deck well. We talked so much about how much it has hand disruption. If you can have cards in your deck that are individually powerful and are individually their own win cons, that can be very powerful. I think that one of the ideas for some of the decks that are more combo oriented is to bring in things like Batter Skull, which is just a life linking artifact that comes down relatively early and just can win you the game kind of on its own, and it also can be returned to your own hand to dodge some of the removal as well. So, anyways, that's really the big thing is if you can modify your deck post board to have more individually powerful cards rather than just relying on synergy, I think that those are the decks that do the best against
Because
Jund.
Jund is very proactive, not reactive.
Correct.
So, next deck. Dun, dun, dun. We've got white-black tokens. Now, this is going to be a really awesome thing if you're looking into buying the new Modern Event deck, which releases...
Soon, beginning of next month.
No, we have them at the shop. I think
Really?
that you can start selling them tomorrow.
Wow.
I think tomorrow's when they come out.
Okay,
officially.
awesome.
Yeah, like I've got one in my car to go to the Draper shop right now. Anyway, not the point. So what White Bite Tokens usually does is it's kind of a lot like Jund. It wants to play lots of discarding type effects. It wants to kill your guys, and it wants to provide a
Value.
it wants to get the most value for the least amount of mana, but it wants to provide an army of spirit tokens, usually to overrun your opponent. Quite frequently, with some of the biggest spells that they run, they're right now playing Oriok Champion. This is one of the ones we were kind of looking at, and it's sitting at like 15 out of stock on Star City, which is kind of crazy. It's for 2 white. It's a 1/1 human cleric. It has protection from black and from red, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Seems really good, right? You're just constantly gaining life for each spell you cast and what creatures your opponents play. This is also probably so high because of Martyr Sands, Soul Sisters, which we hopefully can add. We'll see, though. We might have to talk about it another time. But again, like Agendi, it runs Lingering Souls. One of the most efficient spells for getting out tokens.
Yeah,
right?
Rich, quick question for you. When I play the card Tarmogoyf, how many creatures do I get?
1.
And when I play the card Lingering Souls, how many creatures do I get?
Well, technically you get 2,
But
but
really,
you can get up to 4.
yeah. So I mean, you are just getting value out of cards like Lingering Souls, and that's really the heart of tokens. I mean, I think a lot of people have played, weenie type strategies where you just make you kind of go wide instead of going big. And then that's a common thing. And so, but the thing is, these little 1/1s are not all that impressive by themselves.
Lingering Souls costs 2 colorless and 1 white. Sorcery speed, put 2 1/1 white spirit flying creatures into play, and it has a flashback of 1 black, 1 colorless. And they said in development that they botched and accidentally, for those of you who can see me, made the flashback cost 1 black, 1 colorless because they didn't mean to.
Did they mean to make like 2
They didn't mean
black?
to. They meant
Or
to make
2
it
and
like
a
2
black?
colorless and a black.
So you're saying
Gotcha.
this is maybe like a
Kind of
typo?
snuck through.
Yeah,
Kinda like Rancor
somebody,
did.
Kind of like Rancor, yeah. Like they kind of messed up, but oh well, happy accident. Like now we get to reap
Yeah,
the benefits
now
of this.
Tom Martell just calls it his wow, fail. Tom Martell refers to it as his invitational card because he won a Pro Tour and also a Star City Open using Lingering Souls in both when it was in Standard and also when it was in his Legacy deck. So kind of neat.
No, beware of the Wumpus. This is not the event deck.
Yeah, this is not the deck you get. This is a deck you could
this is
turn it
Craig
into eventually.
Wisco's deck list. It's very, very close, though. Very close.
It is actually very close.
Instead of coming with the Sword of War and Pieces, it comes with one Sword of Feast and Famine and 1 Elspeth Elspeth Knight Errant. Yeah. I wish the deck came with all this stuff, but it comes with a lot of the shell, but not the big, huge, expensive cards.
And not the fetch lands, which is, I mean, I think a lot of people were suspecting that it might have 1 fetch. And
yeah,
it
there
didn't.
was.
It came with City of Brass instead.
Kind of sucks, but it came with City of Brass, which is weird. They should have just put Mana Confluence, but then everybody in Standard would be buying it. But it's kind of hard to flip between the dock and talking to people.
Yeah.
So apologize about that. So the other card that they use is Spectral Processions. It costs 3 white or 2 colorless for each CMC. So 6 total colorless, or 2 colorless and 2 white, or however you want to split it. But 3 white or 2 colorless hybrid. To put sorcery speed, put 3 1/1 white spirit tokens with flying on the battlefield. This is again one of those spells where you get a lot of value because like Lingering Souls only gives you 2, but this one gives you 3, right?
Right.
It's a little bit harder on the land base being at 3 white, and as we discussed with Blades last time, Blades pointed out that it has a CMC of 6, which was crazy. I didn't know that, so eye-opening from that.
Yeah, so if you're playing something like
Dark
Confidant,
Confidant, yeah.
then you take a lot of damage.
I'm
from
glad
him.
Blades opened my eyes on that one. That one made me not want to play Dark Confidant in this ever. But yeah, so this is just one of those super value town spells that gives you lots of bodies. It also runs things like Elspeth Knight Errant, which is the Planeswalker. He costs 2 white, 2 colorless, has a +1, comes into play with 4 loyalty, has a +1 ability of put a 1/1 white soldier creature into play, another +1 ability of give target creature you control +3/+3 in flying, and then a -8 ability of you get an emblem, right?
Yeah, you get an emblem and all your stuff is indestructible.
Gotcha. So which is pretty awesome. I mean, a lot of times just the +1ing ability to make a guy +3/+3 in flying, giving him evasion is usually just enough to win out the game. But on occasion, when you wipe your board and you have no tokens, she generates a token per turn. Seems pretty good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
She also defends herself really well. The other Elspeth that this deck list, particular of Craig Wesco's that we are showing right now, runs Elspeth Tyrell, which we had also talked about last time with Blades. She costs 5 instead of 4. 3 colorless, 2 white. She's a 4/4. She has a +2 ability of you gain 1 life for each creature you control, and a -2 ability of put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the battlefield, and then she has a -5 ability of destroy all non-land, non-token creatures.
Yep, all other permanents except for lands and tokens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing is, in this deck, it seems like the way that Craig built it, and how actually a lot of black-white token decks are, is sometimes you're going to be taking a lot of damage because it's going to happen. They're going to play bigger creatures than you are. So if you're able to kind of supplement that with some life gain, all the better, right? And the thing is, Elspeth Tyrell protects herself because you're able to make bodies, and then also gain life if you do already have a pretty awesome board state.
And the ability to just go +2, and then the next turn if she's around to blow up the world, if you already have tokens on the board, is very, very powerful.
Another thing is, too, so you're probably thinking there's a lot of 1/1 derpy guys. They probably get outclassed by Goy or even Wild Nakata. Like, what can you do? Well, they run a lot of things like Intangible Virtue. Intangible Virtue is a enchantment that costs 1 colorless, 1 white. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. So now not only are you guys attacking and now being able to block, like you're able to be offensive and defensive and just pump your team. It also runs things.
Just like Honor of the Pure. I was just supplementing.
Yeah.
The Honor of the Pure says that all white creatures get +1/+1. So even your non-token white guys get a little bit bigger and can get in there for some damage.
Yeah, like your Oriok champion that we had talked about.
Yep.
Or even the next card. Like they run a lot of things like Thoughtseizes. Lots of discarding type effects as well. They like to rip things out of your hands. They run the Acquisition of Kozilek's, Path to Exiles. They try to play the cheapest removal possible that kind of disrupts combo while also providing threats and deal with the one big thing and sweat about the small stuff later. Kind of this typically how this deck plays out. And they also run Tidal Sculler, which is 1 white, 1 black for a 2/2 zombie artifact creature. When it comes into play, target player reveals or target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you choose a non-land card from it. Exile it and put it with Tidal Sculler. When Tidal Sculler leaves the battlefield, return that card back to its owner's hand. So it's kind of like our current Brain Magnet in Standard, right? It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of good because it's a Thoughtseize type effect with a body, but at the same time, like it's not nearly as
and gets bigger
good.
with and it gets bigger with Honor of the Pure.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, you can also hook it up with your Sword of War and Peace or Feast and Famine or whatever, because usually the black-white tokens will have some sort of equipment to apply to these decks. Yeah. I know that some of the people are even trying to put Brimaz now in too. I've seen it's been pretty interesting
that makes
to
sense.
see. But that's just it's just another.
Just a little bit of hand disruption. So, the interesting thing about Jund is I think that Jund is more willing to sort of sit back and grind the opponent out. Whereas this black-white tokens deck seems a lot more aggressive in that it's going to continue to attack, not really block that often probably, or maybe just leave one guy to block the biggest thing, and then try to recomp with some life gain and do as little as possible to just kind of disrupt your hand a little bit along the way. And so it's kind of feels Jundy, but definitely more aggressive stance.
Yeah, just a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more, not as attrition. Definitely not as attrition.
Absolutely.
And then speaking of life gain and stuff like that, this is a card I just added up on it. Yeah, Vault of the Archangel. This is one of my favorite cards in black-white land base. It's just a land, tap for one colorless mana, or you could pay 2 colorless, 1 white, 1 black, and tap it. Creatures you control gain lifelink and death touch. So you remember all those little 1/1 guys you just made? Well, now they have death touch. Now block it.
They're Goyf
freely
killers.
as you will. They are Goyf killers. They kill everything.
Yep.
They kill Restoration Angels, Colonnades. They become the ultimate roadblock. Or if you have Vault of the Archangel, this is sorry, not Vault of the Archangel. Obviously, Vault of the Archangel. If you have Intangible Virtue, one thing that I loved doing when I was playing this in the Innistrad block was attacking with your tokens and leaving. Like they know you have the Vault, so you just sit there and they're like, no blocks because they don't want to take damage or block any of the things because they'll lose their creatures if they do, right? Because you could just activate Vault and then give your guys lifelink death touch, so their 5/5 flyer now just dies your 1/1 or 2/2 or whatever, right? This enables you to attack with the Intangible Virtue, keep up the Vault mana. If they don't block at all, don't activate it. Just leave the Vault to be able to be
push your
activated
game plan
afterwards.
forward.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a scare tactic, if you will, and I've seen it in action and it's amazing. So.
Absolutely.
And that's some life, too.
Now, some of the things, if you're playing against this, I think with this sort of being released into the wild as an event deck, we're going to see this a lot. So if you're looking to sideboard against it, Engineered Explosives is an excellent sideboard card, as well as
Ratchet Bomb. Maelstrom Pulse, if you're playing anything green-black, that just wrecks this deck. I know I run like Orzhov Pontiff to try to -1/-1 before they get an Anthem effect on the board, which is pretty effective. Sweepers, Anger of the Gods is great against this. Supreme Verdict, stuff like that, and that's actually why they run the Title Scholars. So they can take your like 1 Wrath effect, right, or your Sweeper, and then just keep providing threats. Or the other thing is too, like if you're playing a deck similar to this, actually bringing like the Oryx Champions or your Essence Wardens or your Soul Wardens, you actually are gaining life when they cast stuff too.
Yep,
which keeps you kind of in the races. So. What are some other interesting things that you can run? Bringing in some enchantment removal may or may not be helpful here. Depends on how heavily they are in the Anthem game.
Yeah, and I just think also if you decide to get into this deck as an event deck, remember on game 2 and 3 that they will likely almost every deck will run a little bit of enchantment hate, and so try to just sort of sandbag at least 1 Lingering Souls in your hand or something so that